Coming to you from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, where this afternoon, WGN Sports presents White Sox baseball. So Jose Abreu, Melky Cabrera, and the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Joe Girardi's 27-time world champion, New York Yankees. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Ken Harrelson with Steve Stone as we get to bring you the finale of this 4-game set and the finale of this 11-game, 10-day road trip, and it certainly has been a long one. Here, they won the first game by a score of 3-2, big 3-run homer by Beltran. We won game 2 5-2. That was behind Carlos Rodon. We lost yesterday 2-1, so we scored 8 runs here. And Adam Eaton is 5 for 11 in this series, and he's also having a pretty good September.
I would think Adam Eaton would be a catalyst, and it's a shame it hasn't been a full season job because they have scored a whole lot more runs. Adam's done just a great job on this road trip. He's done a great job in September. He's done a great job in the second half. When he gets on, he's probably going to score because he can steal bases. He's stolen a couple in this series. And all in all, he's played the table setter to perfection. Now, as you can see on the road trip 360 versus the Yankees this year, well, he's killed them, almost hitting 500 against them in September, 374. He's really coming on. His batting average 283. Last year he hit 300. He won't get there this year, but he's done a great job the second half.
And on the bump today, a couple of good young right-handers.
We've got one who throws the ball exceptionally well. They have one who throws the ball exceptionally well. Let's look at Eric Johnson, who's 3-0 this year, his ERA in the mid-3s. And since he's come back from the minor leagues where he was the pitcher of the year, he's shown exactly why he was the pitcher of the year. He's getting everything over the plate. His slider has been crackling. The fastball has been lively. And last time out, he threw the ball very well. On the other side of the page, Luis Severino, a youngster that the Yankees covet. This is probably their best starting arm in the minor leagues. He's come up, he's 4-3, his ERA 3.10. He's got a great slider. He's got a very good fastball. And last time out against Toronto, he threw the ball well. As you can see, the last start Monday against Detroit for Eric Johnson. The last start last time out for Luis Severino. Both of them quality starts. Both of them did a great job. So it's two youngsters who've got a great chance to be in the rotation next year. They just have to prove it each and every time out, and Eric has done just that.
All right, the final road game of 2015. So sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
most live sports. It's a very nice day, albeit a bit cool here in the Bronx, as the Yankees have come to the realization that they're not going to catch Toronto. They're going to be involved in that one-and-done game. It'll probably be hosted right here in Yankee Stadium. But they've gone out and put together a lineup that's usually pretty tough on right-hand pitchers, and Eric Johnson, who came into the dugout, is one of those. So let's take a look at how Robin's going to line up our Sox for the game this afternoon. Adam Eaton, the DH, is leading it off, and it's Jose Abreu. Melky Cabrera. Melky has done a great job career-wise against these Yankees. Trace Thompson in center field. J.B. Shuck gets a nod in right. Mike Old at third. Rob Brantley behind the plate. Carlos Sanchez at second, and Tyler Saladino hitting ninth and playing shortstop. The defense, and now they'll line up behind Luis Severino, Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, and Slade Heathcott in right field. That's Brendan Ryan, Didi Gregorius, Dustin Ackley, and Greg Bird at first base. Brian McCann, the prolific run producer and dead pull hitting left-hander behind the plate. And hard-throwing Luis Severino on the hill. He's come up and done exactly what they predicted he would do when he got to the major leagues, and that was look very impressive. His ERA is .310. He's got a 4-3 record. Last time out, he threw the ball very well. A quality start against Toronto. There you look at the numbers overall. This is his 10th start. Opponent's hitting just .231. He's got a devastating slider. When it's on, he's very difficult to deal with, and it appears that Severino has done enough and shown the Yankees enough where he's going to be strongly considered for the rotation next year. The umpires for the game this afternoon: Brian O'Nora behind the plate, Mark Ripperger is at first, Alan Porter at second, and Sam Holbrook is at third. So the Yankees, who come into this one 65, 85, and 69, well, they're ready to go, and they throw the ball around the infield, which means we're ready to go, as Joe Girardi looking over his lineup card. So we're ready to play baseball, and I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
All right, Steve, thank you. And once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN Sports. And before we show you our picks to click you at home, select yours as the first pitch of the ball game. Paid for a strike. That fastball at 94. As I mentioned, he is 5 for 11. Adam is 5 for 11 in this series with an RBI, and that pitch is fouled away. Sox come in hitting at .250 as a club with a 3.98 team ERA. That's low. And here at Yankee Stadium, 318 down the left field line, 314 down the right field line, 385 in deep right center, 399 in deep left center, and 408 straight away center. Two balls, two strikes.
That time Severino reached back, he got 96. There's nothing wrong with his arm.
And that's out number one. So with one out, let's check out our picks to click. Jim and Joe, our director and crew, well, they went with Tyler. Steve's going with Melky Cabrera and Terry Hanley, Eric Aldrich, Mike Williams, Roger Clare. And now we're going to go with Carlos Sanchez. Abreu, 2 for 13 in the series, hitting at .289, 29 long ones, and 97 driven in. Good rip underneath it.
For the Yankees, this is one of their faster outfields. And the two guys at the top, Ellsbury and Gardner, both are going to run today, you would assume. That's assuming they get on.
If I was getting ready to say, if they get on.
I think one of the things that Joe Girardi would like to see late in the season is a rejuvenated running game. And when you've got Ellsbury and Gardner at the top, they both can run. They started out running a whole lot early in the season and then for whatever reason stopped.
That pitch is downstairs. Well, Heathcott, Mike Field's no slouch. He can steal a base for you. So he's got obviously some speed.
Pretty good job of fighting that one off. That was a 90-mile-an-hour slider. It was about 3-4 inches off the outside corner. And Jose was able to reach out and spoil a good pitch. As Melky waiting patiently in the on-deck circle against a team that he's tormented in the past, the team he played for in the past.
Watch out. That pitch almost got him in the count. Goes full at 3-2. All four base hit right here, big man. Oh boy. So 1 out, 1 on.
That was another slider, but this one had the whole plate. And one of the reasons why Jose is at or near 300 most of the year is his ability to do just that. Takes a pretty good pitch. And with 2 strikes, not thinking about hitting it out of the ballpark, thinking about taking it through the vacated right side because they're playing him up the middle.
Well, we got some guys in our club take the same swing on 0-2 as they do on 2-0.
Yeah.
He's not one of them.
No, he is a great
He makes
approach.
some adjustments.
Yeah.
Melky, 275, 12 homers, 76 driven in.
He spun out of the way of that one pretty well, turning back toward the umpire, in this case Brian O'Nora.
If he goes the other way, he hits himself.
He's going to wind up at first base painfully.
Right to the bag and rack him up. Ball was hit hard. Meanwhile, after a half inning of play, it's our guys nothing in their guys coming to bat.
This afternoon, the two speed burners, Jacoby Ellsbury and Brett Gardner at the top. Then it's Carlos Beltran, who's been one of their hottest hitters. Brian McCann, Greg Bird, Dustin Ackley, Didi Gregorius, Slade Heathcott, and Brendan Ryan rounding it out. The defense and how they'll line up behind Eric Johnson left to right, Melky Cabrera, Trace Thompson, and J.B. Shuck in right field today. That's Mike Gold, Tyler Saladino, Carlos Sanchez, and Jose Abreu around the infield with Rob Brantley behind the plate and Eric Johnson on the hill. He's 3-0 this year, looking for win number 4. He's been very impressive. He works fast, he's got a good rhythm going, and he feels that this is what he felt like 2 years ago when he showed that he could be a major league pitcher, only to fall off last year. And this year, he's got it all back together again.
So here's Ellsbury, Jacoby, 2 for 8 in the series, hitting at .260, 7 homers, 32 knocked in, and he takes a strike that was called a ball. Two and 0.
I would think if you want to hold down these Yankees, you got to make sure that 1 and 2 in the batting order, Ellsbury and Gardner, don't get on very often.
Come back and get him. Here's the 3-0.
Certainly the one thing you were hoping that didn't happen has already happened. Now you just have to limit the damage, as Ellsbury has swiped 21 bases, been caught 8 times in this series. He got the 300 stolen bases.
So here's Gardner. Well, if he gets a base hit, that's one thing. You just don't want to walk guys like that. Not Daddy's on first base. It's how he got on first base. Here's Gardner. Takes ball 1, so that's 5 in a row.
Trace Thompson not playing overly deep in center field. Brett Gardner has some surprising power. He's hit 16 home runs, and so he can occasionally put a charge into it as you look at the running numbers this year for Ellsbury.
That's 6 in a row, and now Brantley's going to go out. Have a little chit chat with him. Yankees hitting at .251 as a team, 1 point higher than us. They have a 3.95 team ERA. Big difference is they have 73 more home runs than we do.
You say they can hit the ball out of the park.
They have 206. We have 133, and we're playing in a better home run park than they are.
Ellsbury back in 2009 stole 70 bases. He stole 52 in 2013. He's had some leg problems, and that probably has curtailed a lot of his running, although he looks entirely healthy this series, and Yankees are very happy that he is healthy heading into what appears to be a one-and-done wild card showdown.
Three-one pitch. And it's right at the corner to knees. So a full count.
Now we'll see how adventuresome Joe Girardi wants to be, because this is a pretty good pitch to run if you consider that if it's in the zone, Gardner's going to make some contact. However, he does strike out a lot.
Outfield to the left. Slightly. Bit of a gap in right center. There he goes. That'll be an error. Tried to do too much too quick.
He appears to be limping around a bit at first base. I'm not sure if he was thinking about going to second or exactly what happened, but he came up a little lame after that one.
He was thinking about going to second.
And unfortunately, Ellsbury was going. So we'll take another look. He gets a pretty good jump. Would have been a tough play at second base, but as this ball got away, I think he hurt himself on that little stumble going to get the ball. And it does go indeed E3.
Well, Abreu has good hands. He's just made some bad decisions on plays of that nature this year.
I would say that Hermie would need a backhoe to haul him out of there with what he's going after.
Well, he's like that all the time. That's one thing about Abreu, about Alexei. Those guys, they want to stay in there every inning of every game.
If Alexei had his way, he would never leave the lineup, never miss an at bat.
Well, you get certain guys. A.J. Pierzynski was like that. He wanted to play every inning of every game. That's why he holds major league record for catchers for most consecutive seasons with 1,000 or more innings caught.
That also shows that you're impervious to pain.
He is that. So we got a problem. Here's Beltran as he takes first pitch strike. The two guys who are speedsters are on second and first.
Beltran, a much better hitter from the left side, 287 as opposed to 246, and most of his power comes left-handed.
Oh, and 2 the count.
For Eric, if he can throw a double play ground ball, could get himself out of this inning. Beltran, surprisingly, he's only grounded into 10 of them. 451 at bats.
Well, that's what Rodon did in game 2 of this series. When he needed it, he threw the ground ball.
They grounded into 4 of them. Carlos didn't have great stuff, but he sure made some big pitches when he had to. That's going to be another error on Jose.
Yep.
That looked like that could have been 2 because Beltran doesn't run particularly well and didn't run down the line, seeming that he was going to be out. He only started to run when the ball trickled away from Jose. So it's a hard hit ball, but it's right there. And then you see Beltran not exactly busting it to get down the line, but it loads him up.
Well, that's why we say so much. First rule in baseball is you got to catch the ball.
It's probably going to be error number 11.
So here is Brian McCann. McCann leading this club in RBIs with 91. He's 1 for 5 in the series. Bases loaded and nobody out. There's the strike. Here's where a lot of guys, a lot of pitchers will challenge themselves.
Well, if you can, and it's tough to do, you got to forget about the 3 runners, get the hitter out, and keep getting the hitters out. And if they score, they score.
And that's going to get 1 in and 1 over. And it's 1-0. The leadoff walk comes around the score.
RBI number 92 for McCann.
No, it's a rare breed that'll challenge themselves in situations like that, but that rare breed does exist. Guys like Mark Burley, guy I played with named Jim Catfish Hunter. A guy that I never faced, I saw him pitch and played golf with him. Greg Maddux. Another guy I played a lot of golf with was a fellow who maybe the greatest basketball player to ever live. We were talking about that one day on the golf course, Michael Jordan. As Bird can't get it, and I had said something to him that caused Michael to say, well, every game, every day, he does something to challenge himself and to motivate himself every day.
Pretty good philosophy, certainly.
He gone. Big strikeout, 2 down.
Whatever runs score are going to be unearned, but if Eric can get out of this with just the 1 run, it will be a wonderful job.
Well, he's trying.
He got the fly ball to a very dangerous McCann, threw it by Bird, and now he has to deal with Ackley.
When you give a team 5 outs in an inning and you only give up 1 run, that's not bad. There's a strike. Dustin Ackley, 0 for 3 in this series, hitting at .238, homers and 25 knocked in. Ball hit very hard, very foul. And the count 0-2.
Ackley at one point was the great hope, the pride and joy of the Seattle Mariner organization. Certainly fell on hard times, and of course when he came here to the Bronx, he lost that substantial beard that he had grown out in the Northwest.
That ball hit deep into right center field. Caught! Beautiful jump, beautiful catch by J.B. Shuck, and that'll retire the side. Another look at this great jump and beautiful catch.
Catch by J.B. Shuck. He gets a great break, able to run it down in the alley. Didn't look like he'd be able to get to it, but get to it he does. And the Sox and Eric Johnson get out of the inning with just one run. The speed replay is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. And that was a whale of a play.
Indeed it was. Did not think he was going to be able to get there. As here is Trace. Well, most of the time you got two categories, sometimes three, but you got two categories at the end of the season. That you go over your ball club. Was he an asset or was he a liability? J.B. Shuck was an asset this year.
I would say
the role that he did.
J.B. was a huge plus. When you take a look at fighting his way on the team in spring training, nothing promised to him. And everything that Robin has asked of him, whether it's go in late for defense, try to steal a base, come off the bench and pinch hit late, fill in every now and then, get 4 at bats, but not often. I think he's done a terrific job.
That's the reason he was an asset.
Yep.
And the third category sometimes is a question mark. That they've shown you a lot of good stuff, but they also showed you a lot of bad stuff. Most of the time it's clear cut, though. Either he was or he was not. That ball hit very hard.
Well, there are a lot of guys that you play them in that particular role. If they accept the role, they have a chance to excel at the role. And then some people believe that, well, they can play every day if they've shown me that much in that short a time. But doesn't necessarily translate to one or the other. A lot of guys just can't play every day.
Well, that's what another category goes is CFP. That's popped up in the right, so 1 out.
And CFP means?
Use your imagination. Here's JB. Now feels slightly to the left. Davies had some big hits for us coming off that bench.
That certainly is one of the toughest jobs in baseball, is come off the bench late against the other team's star and try to win a ball game.
Well, if you come off the bench late in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, you're going to be facing some good stuff out there in a close ball.
Got 7 pinch hits. He's driven in 5 runs and 28 at bats. Far and away most effective pinch hitter.
Pinch hitting today is harder than it's ever been, just for that reason. And it's going to be a tough play for Severino, but a bad feed there by Bird anyway.
We'll have to see it's a base hit because the speed of Shuck got him down there. Even if Severino catches the ball, it's going to be very close. And so a tapper to the right side. It became evident Severino couldn't get to it. Then he tried to get to the bag, but he's not going to be able to get there even if he hangs onto the ball. So you would think they give him E1.
No.
Yeah, that's a real bad call.
I mean, it's a bad feed, but it should have been a base hit. We've seen some really bad scorekeeping this year. I mean, not that was terrible, but I mean, it should have been a base hit. But we've seen some really bad scorekeeping this year. In that series in Detroit, shortstop goes over, slides to make the play, gets up.
He gets charged with the E.
He gets charged with an error.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous. That's what we've seen, some ridiculous scorekeeping this year. Olt 1 for 6 in the series, and that was a long home run. And it did not take long to get in that second deck out there.
Probably the biggest improvement in McCann's game, because he could always hit. But the biggest improvement has been behind the plate, throwing out would-be base stealers. One of their coaches, Gary Tuck, is a catching specialist, and he worked all spring and all early season, and still working with him on occasion, on righting his footwork, getting rid of the ball more quickly. And McCann has done a really good job this year.
Well, if you look at our guys, Flowers and Soto, Mark Parent's done a real good job with Phil since he's been here. Especially with Flowers. Soto's only been here 1 year, but he's done a good job. Our catchers have thrown the ball well. We've got some pitchers that really don't do a real good job of holding guys on. So
Tyler in yesterday's game probably made as good a throw as he's made all year. I mean, it was a pinpoint perfect throw.
Can't make any better throw. I mean, that's as good as it can get for him.
He cut down Gregorius in the 5th inning, who had a tremendous jump. Threw it right on the button, right to Alexei. Essentially, Gregorius tagged himself out, but pitchers will give them a shot, and as you say, some of them don't. Then they got a good chance at cutting down a would-be base steal.
Well, we've seen some base runners this year against some of our pitchers that just got Lance Johnson jumps. There he gone. Strike him out, throw him out. And second double play turned by the Yankees. Didi Gregorius, Zachary Slade Heathcock, and Brendan Ryan. First pitch strike. If you missed that game the other night, the Carlos Rodon, that to me was as impressive as he's been since he's been with us. Didn't have his good stuff, didn't have his good control, and he still went 6 innings, giving up just 2 runs and making big pitches. That was the most mature outing that he has had.
There's a whole lot of guys that would have gone into a sense of panic with 5 walks, 2 hit batsmen, a couple pitches behind hitters, and he just didn't do it.
Well, that's why it to me is like that outing that Chris Sale had against Texas a few years ago when he didn't hit 90. He had a dead arm. He went out there. He went 9 and he beat him. He didn't hit 90. He did it with cunning and guile and guts and competitiveness.
Cunningham guy.
And we just saw here a great thing. If you think back about Eric Johnson last season, and then they allow him to still be hitting if it was Eric Johnson the last year of 2014.
No, he got out of it. It took a spectacular play, but he retired McCann, Bird, and Ackley, 3 left-hand hitters.
Well, there was a couple of bad plays that got him into it. So it was only fair that he had a good play to get him out of it. Yeah, I love situations like that. And see how they react. Young guys. Good pitch, good job by Beatty just to fight it off.
At the very least, it's going to be an 8-pitch at bat, which is pretty good after an extended first inning. So the pitches are going to start to pile up if the Yankees continue to battle as they have.
Beatty hitting at 267. He's 2 for 6 in this series. And he had the only 2 RBIs in that Rodon outing. Slider, he went out and got, hooked it in right field. A lot of guys can play when there's no pressure. A lot of guys can play when everything's going their way. When things get a little tough and the pressure gets on, that's why pressure is the biggest killer of performance in all of sports, not just baseball. He did not go in there. It was a good technique by Gregorius. One of those hands has got to come off the bat to have a good technique. Full count. Pops him up. Good job. Good job by Eric right there. Good, and a good at bat by Gregorius.
A 12-pitch at bat, finally won by Johnson. Now Brantley goes out there, has a word with him on how they want to deal with Heathcote. Yet another left-hand hitter. Oh, Brendan Ryan, the 9th hitter, is going to be facing Eric from the right side.
So here's Heathcote. Going to have himself his 25th birthday tomorrow. Zachary Slade Heathcote, Texas.
First round pick by these Yankees in 2009, the 29th pick overall.
Well, he's got some pop and he can run. So that's their first hit.
He takes this off-speed pitch, looked like a straight change, and just slices it into left field. Now the lone right-hander in the lineup steps up.
But we had a right-hander, a rookie, a few years back. Kip Wells had his first 7 starts were the best 7 starts I've ever seen a rookie have. Boy, if you saw those 7 starts, you're going to say to yourself, we have got ourselves a 20-game winner. Well, he became a pretty good pitcher.
Let's see, and then
things got a little tough. But those first 7 starts by Kip were absolutely, I mean, fun to watch. Wow. He gone. 2 down.
Second strikeout by Eric.
That's why Cooper's such really a terrific pitching coach. There are some pitching coaches that know as much about, so to speak, the, emotions and everything else. It's how he gets in the heads of his pitchers. The same thing with Charlie Lau, former, God rest his soul, hitting coach for Kansas City, Yankees, and for our White Sox. There were a lot of guys that knew about how to go about, mechanically speaking. Charlie got in your head. Charlie was one of those few rare breeds of a hitting coach that he wouldn't go to you. You had to come to him. And if you didn't come to him, there was no conversation. But and the reason that was done for a reason. It was a method to his madness. If you come to him now, you're going to be receptive to what he's got to say.
And if you do go to him, most likely, if you're not at rock bottom, you're pretty close.
Exactly.
Because what you were doing that used to work doesn't work anymore.
Exactly.
And you're looking for answers.
And Charlie was a smart guy. Charlie, we played together. He was the third string catcher my rookie year at Kansas City. And he was a 265 line drive hitter. He was tough out. Watch out. Now back off. There you go. There, never run that. Put it on him. And that'll retire the side. So he is caught stealing for the first time in his major league career. But they lead at 1-0.
Jeff Vukovich, your local Nationwide insurance agent, serving the area for 37 years. Join the nation. Visit jeffvuk.com because Nationwide is on your side.
Lower third of our order, Brantley, Sanchez, and Saladino to face this good-looking young right-hander. 21 years old, Luis Severino out of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, a little bigger than that. As Rob takes ball 1, but getting back to coaching. Coaching has never been tougher than it is today. Especially the toughest coaching job in baseball, the toughest uniform job is a hitting coach. And when these clubs are going out and signing guys, youngsters who have never had a bat in the big leagues, they sign them for $60, $70, $80 million contracts. All of a sudden they face big league pitching for the first time, and they're not doing so well. And it's understandable. They're young, never faced big league pitching before. Meanwhile, they got $60 million in the bank. And a hitting coach tries to impart maybe a little bit of this or that. There's a good chance that guy's going to look at him like he's crazy. That ball hit high into center field. And the reason being, he's got $60 million in the bank, and that's what got him to $60 million. The way he hits. I've always said this, and I'll believe it. You have got, and most teams have it today. I was the first guy to bring in a couple. You got to have 2 pitching coaches, and you got to have 2 hitting coaches. You got to have a hitting coach for line drive hitters, and you got to have a hitting coach for home run hitters, because they're 2 entirely different approaches. And Todd has done everything he could to try to impart to our guys. Some of them are listening, some of them have not. And that's the way it is with every hitting coach.
I was
on every 30, on all 30 teams.
That's why they move around so much.
That's right. It's the toughest uniform job in baseball. And you can't get on them. If you get on them, you lose them.
A lot of times with the current mentality, yes, that happens.
That is sliced into the seats for a souvenir. Coop is old. Always got something positive to get in their head with. 0-2. Count hangs there.
Nice job of staying alive on that one, because that pitch was well off the plate. Severino took a little something off. Carlos was still able to at least see one more pitch.
Well, Carlos was 0 for 2 last night and hit 2 bullets. And there's a comeback. 2 down.
That time McCann wanted that fastball up. He gave him the fastball sign and then made another sign that he wanted to throw a high fastball. And he got it at the top of the zone, exactly where McCann wanted it. It's a good execution by Severino.
Here's Tyler. 0 for 4 in the series, hitting at 234. Homers and 20 knocked in, and he takes first pitch strike. Fastball at 96 with a little cut on it. He's got a live arm. But biggest and toughest stage for rookies to break in, right here, Yankee Stadium in the Bronx.
And most likely, if they do get by that one and done game, and it's still not clear who exactly it's going to be against, because the Angels are in the process of running down Houston.
It's going to be fun.
But it's going to be here, most likely.
Well, you know, that's why you're disappointed. That's why I'm disappointed. That's why fans are disappointed. That's why our organization is disappointed, and that's why our players are disappointed. Everybody thought we were going to have fun in September. September baseball is great if you're in the hunt. But when you're out of the hunt like we got knocked out, like a fight, you get knocked out, you're gone. Yes, he did. That's what those good arms, live fastballs will get you.
card, only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/White Sox to learn more. Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC.
Unearned run for the Yankees in the first inning. Scored without the benefit of a base hit, but there was a walk, 2 errors, sacrifice fly, and then terrific job by Eric striking out Bird and then getting Ackley to go out on a beautiful catch by J.B. Shuck in right center field. So they're back to the top of the order. Ellsbury, who walked on 4 pitches to lead off the bottom of the first. Two and 0. Leadoff man aboard.
Join us at U.S. Cellular Field on Saturday, October 3rd as the White Sox host the Detroit Tigers at 6:10. First 10,000 fans will receive an exclusive stretch sale action figure. For tickets or more information, visit whitesox.com.
Ellsbury with those 70 stolen bases in 2009. 21 for 29 this year. Talking about how he and Gardner, but we have more stolen bases than they do. They have 58, we have 65.
Yeah, they stopped running. But on a 3-1 count, Ellsbury was going in the first inning. Ellsbury tried to get a running start that time. Eric Johnson doesn't look a lot at first base.
Yeah, Ricky Henderson, greatest base stealer we've ever seen. Did not use a crossover step. He started with that lead and then the right foot, and by the time that left foot of his hit the ground, he was wide open. I've never seen explosive speed like Ricky Henderson had.
Well, now you would think Ellsbury is going to be going again as we see another 3-1 count.
Well, you can't worry about Ellsbury. You got to get to
No, I mean, worrying about the speed has gotten him 2 exact counts, and Ellsbury figures to be taken off.
That's why Ricky Henderson's the greatest offensive player I've ever seen. All the great players I've played against, because of what he did, especially the young pitching. He just tore them up in minutes. They couldn't throw a strike. Well, he got a good pitch to hit.
He did, and that ball bounces right back from the stands back to the field of play.
Watch this. Watch the swing he puts. He's got. See, he mentioned earlier, he's got some pop. 16 homers. So now he'll be off. Hold it on him there, boy. Hold it, hold it, hold it. They can call time. There you go. Good. That boy, Eric. When you don't have a real good move to first base, that is the biggest deterrent you have. Hold the ball on. There he goes. And that's into center field. The Trace coming in. So trouble brewing once again. First 2 men aboard.
At the point where Ellsbury was, you might as well just continue to go, because if it's caught, you're out anyway. Fortunately, hit hard enough and right at Thompson where he couldn't advance to third, and so now Don Cooper comes out once again.
Well, that's where Brett Gardner can thank Ellsbury to a degree on getting a couple good pitches to hit in that sequence.
So Brian O'Nora decides he wants to break things up, and Don Cooper had already broken it up.
Here's Beltran. Hit the ball hard down to Abreu. First trip. And Jose tried do a little too much. Made an error. That loaded the bases with nobody out in the first inning. So he's got to pitch out of another jam right here. Right on the corner, says O'Nora. Now feel slightly, just slightly to the right. 38-year-old Carlos Beltran. Ate him up. Ate him up. Good pitch. Right underneath his hands.
This is a slider or a cutter, and he got where he wanted it. Beltran can't do anything with it. He's fortunate this ball wasn't all that high, and Brantley can't get back in time.
That's him a fastball right underneath his hands. Oh, that is away, and that's caught. Nelke will get it back in. So a big out. And here's McCann. Ryan picked up his 92nd RBI with a sacrifice fly.
He didn't miss it by much, and so Eric's got to make an adjustment because McCann seemingly right on it.
He was.
And when a pitcher notices that, he's got to do something else.
First pitch strike. What percentage of the pitchers today would you estimate that pitch to the hitter or pitch to the glove?
I think all of them pitch to the glove.
No question about it.
And
you get a lot of pitchers, a great one in the past, pitch to the hitter.
Absolutely.
That ball in left center field. Melky's got the bead. And he gets it back in with a. But I would say probably if there is any pitcher or pitchers that pitch to the hitter today, it would be tops 1%.
Well, here's an example. I mean, I threw lots of curveballs to right-hand hitters, but I couldn't look at the glove because it was irrelevant. My place that I shot for was behind the left shoulder of the right-hand hitter, because if I released it there, it was going to go somewhere over the plate, depending on how big I wanted the break to be. But that was the spot, not the catcher's. Same thing with shin guards when you're looking at a catcher. You're sometimes looking at a shin guard. Sometimes you're looking at a hitter's hands. If you're not worried about throwing a strike, you try to throw it right under the hands, and the glove many times is not there.
That's one of the changes in the game today. In years past, the majority of pitchers, the good ones, pitch to the hitter. They watch what the hitter did. Hitter told him what pitch to throw next. Catcher didn't have to. That's the reason they use the wipes. Catcher's got enough problem catching the ball. They can't always exactly see what the hitter's doing as well as the pitcher. That's what Koufax, one of the greatest pitchers, if not the greatest for a 6-year period, never watched the glove. Pitch to the hitter. Hitter told him exactly what he was going to throw next. Hit him. And that'll load him up. So he got him on a 1-2 pitch. That's the first at bat. Where?
Throws a slider and catches him right off the left knee. So once again, for the second time in 3 innings, he's got the bases loaded.
And same man at the plate, Dustin Ackley. First pitch strike, and boy, Dustin hit the ball hard. By this time, there were only 2 guys on, but he hit the ball hard. Watch J.B. Shaw. Long way to go. Not a great catch, but a real good one. And that's popped up. Abreu, Jose is good on these, real good. And that'll retire the side. Went to the 4th, trailing 1-0.
Carlos Sanchez on November 28th for the Sox on the Beach Apple Vacation. The 7-night all-inclusive hotel stay will be at the Iberostar Paraiso Del Mar in beautiful Riviera Maya, Mexico. There's going to be a private welcome party and autograph session with your White Sox hosts. Visit applevacations.com/White Sox to book your trip today.
We trail it 1-0. Unearned run in the first inning, and once again, Eric Johnson's pitched out of a big jam. That is nice to see from the youngster. International League Pitcher of the Year. grew up a lot in 2015. Out of play left side. Adam hit a hard comebacker to Severino, leading off the ball game. Fastball at 96.
The Severino stuff is pretty impressive, and the fact that he can change speeds as well as he can shows you that he understands a little bit something about getting hitters out at whatever level he's progressed through.
Well, he's one of those guys that doesn't take long. I mean, you can see a lot of guys throw on the side. That ball hit hard in the center field. They got a good one out there. And Ellsbury makes a beautiful catch, and that's a hang whoop'em for Adam Eaton. Yeah, you see a lot of guys throw good on the side as you take another look at this. Watch Ellsbury now. Got a great jump right there. But you put a major league hitter up there, and all of a sudden, a lot of times things change. And Severino, all you got to do is watch him pitch to one hitter. You know he's got good stuff. Jose has our only hit. That was a base hit between first and second. Count evens at 1. Two balls, two strikes. Top of the third in Detroit, 6-0. Minnesota. Twins keep digging. Ate him up right there. That is in a couple pieces. 2 down.
Good late movement on a fastball inside. What's impressive about Severino is the fact that he can go in there with a fastball and then go in there with a pitch that looks like a fastball, only there's 7 miles an hour difference. So able to change speeds on your fastball and still not lose that pinpoint control you need is pretty impressive attribute for a young pitcher. And he was called the #1 prospect in the Yankee organization heading into this year.
Here's Melky. Hit the ball hard, but into a 6-3 double play. And as you may suspect, Toronto, after clinching playoff spot, first time in a long time, 22 years, they're trailing Tampa Bay 4-1. Burley 14-7 on the bump. Burley 14-7 with a 3.80 ERA.
It still for Toronto is something that they would love to be able to host if they run into Kansas City. Right now they both have the same exact records. So Kansas City outplays them the last 7 games, and they would run into one another. Kansas City would host.
Cleveland did not score in the top of the first at Kansas City.
Indians trying to do something for their manager. And that is finish over 500 for Terry Francona, the 11th year in a row that would have happened. And right now, the Tribe, 1 game over.
I hope they do it.
Yeah, so do I. I like Terry. I think he's done a great job there. And he certainly is a good manager.
Well, you just don't go over 500 10 consecutive years unless you know what the hell you're doing.
It's true. Indians got him there for that very purpose. They knew they had some good young players coming up. They knew Terry was the right man for the job.
You can bet your sweet Bippy they're going to be better next year than they were this year.
Well, they're going to have Lindor all year long, and he's really good.
That ball hit hard. Going to hang up? No. Slade couldn't get there. So Melky with that 2-out double. That's his 35th.
Melky hit the ball hard the first time, but as usually happens, he hit it at somebody. This time, he hit it hard enough where Heathcott, going to his right, couldn't chase it down. He thought he had a shot at this.
Well, Melky had a 15-game hitting streak here at Yankee Stadium, stopped last night. So here's Trace. Trace 0 for 1, went out to right field. Boy, I tell you, I love the way he takes pitches, especially from a tough right-hander. Yankees in years past had a couple of guys when they had those terrific ball clubs back in the middle 70s. You could tell how they were swinging about the way they took pitches, and that was Thurman Munson and Lou Piniella.
Thurman, one of those guys that you just couldn't strike out. When you look at his numbers over the course of his career, 1 year striking out less than 40 times and 640 at bats.
Brendan Ryan can throw some well. And we'll go to the bottom of the fourth.
Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. The Sox Game Zone is powered by Robert Morris University, Illinois, offering over 55 athletic teams. That's more than any other university in the state. So for more information on RMU, visit robertmorris.edu.
Here's Didi. That ball down into the get foul. It won't. One hop, down a little double. So that is his 23rd two-back.
Gregorius looks like a good, solid player because this is a good pitch. This is 90 miles an hour in on his hands. He was able to bring the bat in, not get jammed by it, get the good part of the bat on the ball, and one hopped it out of the ballpark.
So here is Slade Heathcott. He lined a single in the left field his first trip. Now he's got to try to pull it. So another jam. If you're just tuning in, Eric pitched out of a bases loaded, nobody out jam with just giving up one unearned run. In last inning, had the bases loaded again. Did not allow anybody to score. That first two men on, nobody out. There's a strike. Well, one of the guys on our staff that showed us that he could do that at a very early stage in his career. And he's still doing it. So Jose Quintana. Not afraid to pitch out of a jam.
He burst on the scene here at Yankee Stadium and was not in any type of awe, not for one pitch that entire performance.
No, it was just it. Kenny Williams absolutely loved it. Got him, and the rest is history now.
Turned into one of the best. 338 earned run average in 31 starts.
Well, they've got him listed as the 8th best left-hander in baseball. That's in too short. Right field Trace is there. And that's out number one. That's not too bad.
Especially when you consider
there's one and lost.
Well, and you look at guys like Bumgarner and Clayton Kershaw and a number of other just really talented left-handers around, and then you take a look at the fact that he's had more no decisions than anybody in baseball over the last 3 years. Continues to throw the ball well each and every time. Pitches over mistakes. It's been a remarkable run for him without a whole lot to show for it, except among his peers. He's generally regarded as one of the best.
Here's Brendan Ryan, struck out his first trip. Well, I talked to opposing hitters about him. And the consensus, the majority is that he's about 6-8 inches quicker at the plate than he looks from the side. Something in his motion, something in his release.
Now, your first instinct when looking at the fastball is it's less than overwhelming. Then you realize how well he uses it, mostly by going up in the strike zone when he's ahead and nobody can catch up to it. So you have to say it's not only effective, but it's a big weapon of his.
Well, it's not the most important pitch in baseball. First pitch strike is, but it's the most effective pitch in baseball is a well-placed fastball, a well-located fastball.
And what Don Cooper had to convince him was you've got to throw the ball away from some right-handers. Because for whatever reason, and this is unlike most pitchers are arm side strong. So for a right-hand pitcher, he's going to be able to throw the ball away to left-hand hitters and into right-hand hitters at a greater proficiency than going the other way, than glove side strong. Jose was always glove side strong. Had to make himself into a guy that could throw away to the right-handers. And now he can control all four quadrants. He becomes just doubly tough.
3-0 the count. You don't want to walk this spot. Come back and get him. Ellsbury on deck.
Put him on via the walk without allowing him to swing the bat. And you've got some problems with the top.
There's one. Did not want to do that.
White Sox fans celebrate Hispanic Heritage Night on October 2nd, presented by Miller Lite. There's going to be Latin music and dancing, special activities for kids, an on-field parade, and a post-game fireworks show. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. Miller Lite, official beer of your Chicago White Sox. Tickets start as low as $10. You can visit whitesox.com/NHH for more information.
Ellsby walked to lead off the bottom of the first, and because of a couple errors, came around, scored on a sacrifice fly, and then he singled, leading off last inning. That's into short left field. Melky coming on. He's there. Two down.
Pitch number 78 on the way, and this has been a struggling performance, but a performance nonetheless that Eric Johnson has shown that he can make some big pitches when he has to.
Gardner. Bob keeps it in front of him.
Nice job, because Gregorius got a very good secondary lead and was about a third of the way to third base before he identified that Brantley did not allow that ball to get by him.
One to count. Trey short and center. Chuck straight up and right. Good pitch.
You get another fastball right in on the hands of Gardner. Difficult thing to do for a right-hander with a good moving fastball, because your two-seamer from a right-hander to a left-hand hitter usually moves away. You can't afford, if you're going to go inside, for that fastball to move away and out over the plate. He was able to throw a four-seamer and keep it straight right in on the hands of Gardner, who couldn't do anything with it. I would assume would be a pass ball. We'll have to wait and see how it's scored.
Well, he tried to get in there again, and he did.
This is a wild pitch.
That's a pass ball.
Yeah, seemed like it. But same result. Runners at second and third, and now you've got to retire Gardner and keep that score at 1-0.
Ducks on the pond, 2 out, and a 2-2 pitch. He gone. A beauty, and he pitches out of yet another jam.
Visit Athletico.com and start defining your inner pain-free athlete today. Athletico, the official physical therapy provider of the Chicago White Sox. Athletico, better for everybody.
Top of the fifth inning and a 1-0 Yankee lead. An unearned run in the bottom of the first inning off Eric Johnson. And Eric has worked his behind off in this game.
This looks a whole lot like the Carlos Rodon game in that Johnson has been in consistent trouble, some of his own making, some of not his own making, but he's gotten out of all of them.
Yeah, the run came in a jam that gave him 5 outs in the first inning as that got a piece of Lenora. But that'll put hair on your chest. Pitching out of those jams.
You didn't play in this ballpark, but you played in, I think, at least one incarnation of the old ballpark. What was your greatest memory of Yankee Stadium as a player?
First day I walked in.
Just the awe in which the whole surroundings created?
Being a 20-year-old from Savannah, Georgia, and coming in where I was going to play against Mickey Mantle and hit against Whitey Ford. That's where Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Joe DiMaggio played. You kidding me? That tears of mine. And Yogi spit on my socks my first at bat against Whitey.
Any particular reason, or
I had 2 strikes on me, and all of a sudden Whitey gets into his windup, and he had that little tailing fastball he used to throw in on the right-handed hitters and tail back and catch the inside corner. And all of a sudden I'm getting ready to get set, and I feel something warm hitting my Sandy, my white Sandy. He throws a pitch, I take it for strike 3, and I look down, and Yogi has put tobacco right on my white Sandy. Ooh, that's close, just foul. I looked at him, and he just looked at me and smiled.
That's kind of gone out of the catcher's arsenal these days.
Yeah, it is. But Yogi, there's no way in the world that somebody could get mad at Yogi Berra. I mean, one of the most lovable people by his teammates, certainly, and by his peers, by the fans.
I had a chance last night to watch an old Charlie Rose interview of Yogi Berra, along with Ron Guidry. We were talking about how great friends they had become, and he was asking Yogi a number of different things about what was going on. And there's a lot of people that didn't think Yogi was a particularly smart guy. They were wrong.
They were dead wrong.
Yogi was a really smart guy. He might not have had the best English in the world, but he was a smart man, and he really understood how to play this game.
Well, I'll give you an example. That's what happened in my first at bat, and I come to the bat about the seventh inning, my third at bat. Finally, I had to call timeout. Back to I said, Yogi, please be quiet and let me hit. I mean, you couldn't shut him up behind the plate. And then we played golf together down in St. Peter's. There's a good at bat right there by JB. So the leadoff single. But we got paired together down in the baseball players tournament. As you look at this base hit, look where that pitch is. That's a great pitcher's pitch. He just beats him on it. But we played 18 holes of golf. I never laughed more on the golf course, and he wouldn't shut up for 18 holes. So here's Olt. He struck out his first trip. That was a double play. Strike him out, throw him out, as JB was trying to steal.
I think what Yogi said in that interview was something interesting, because Charlie Rose wasn't really a baseball guy per se, and he said to Yogi about his hitting style. He said, what did you try to do with the pitcher? And he said he always kept his hands moving, and he timed the pitcher by moving his hands and moving the bat. And then he says, as soon as I saw the pitcher start to deliver, that's when I knew I had to start to come forward with the bat. And because everybody used heavier bats in his era, he said it was a lot easier. You didn't strike out as much. You made contact. And he felt that that movement allowed him to time pitchers better than he would have otherwise.
Ted Williams, exactly the same thing.
And you don't see that at all today.
Ted Williams said you've got to have motion. They call it overcoming the initial inertia. You've got to have motion. Ted said you've got to have the hands moving. You've got to have the hands moving. Ted used to grind. I'll do it right now. He used to grind on the bat a little bit. But he wasn't squeezing it. He was just moving his hands. Uh-oh. Kansas City special. Yes, it is. That's sweet. First 2 men aboard.
And Heathcott was back having to respect the power of Olt, and because of that, he's got no chance to get this one. This is a slider. It's down and away, and he just loops it in front of Heathcott. JB, not knowing if this play was going to be made and not knowing where the ball would bounce or if it would bounce, able to just coast into second base.
No, Yogi was a very smart guy. He was a terrific manager as well.
Took both the Mets and the Yankees not only to the World Series, but to the 7th game of the World Series.
Terrific manager.
Unfortunately, lost them both.
First pitch strike to Brantley. Rob went out to Ellsbury in center field. Yep, that was the Yankees, the Mets, and just missed the Red Sox. With all the rivalries between those 3 clubs, that would have been something.
I would think so. Now everybody's up and stretching in the Yankee bullpen. And Severino having his first real bit of a jam here.
Nice pick, nice peg. Severino right where he should be. And that is a well-executed 3-6-1 double play, 2 down.
That is the most difficult of all double plays because of the coordination of 3 players involved and the fact that the pitcher not only has to get over there, but he's got to locate the bag, catch the baseball, and then usually relocate the bag.
Well, that's the 3rd double play they've turned in this game. I guess turnabout's fair play is night before last week turned 4.
And pitchers have a tendency to use too much of the bag with their foot. They get stepped on a lot on a play like that, but Severino did it well.
Pick him up, Carlos. He had a hard comebacker. There's a soft comebacker. And Severino picks us out of it. We're halfway home trailing 1-0. 0 for 2. We'll lead it off 1-0. Yankees here in their half of the 5th inning.
Eric would love to have a 1-2-3 inning. He faced 3 men in the second. It wasn't a 1-2-3 inning. It was a base hit and then a caught stealing.
Oh, yeah. Way out in front. One of the few that he has thrown.
As you can see in the 20s, the first 3 innings, that's not usually conducive to a long outing. That's why he wants to limit the pitches here in the 5th.
Especially after coming off a long season internationally, where he was, if you're just tuning in, voted the International League Pitcher of the Year. So right now, probably for the most part, pitching on huge percentage of adrenaline.
If this stadium can't give you adrenaline, nothing can.
The ball hit hard, but we got a man there.
Fans, the First Merit Bank Stadium Club offers breathtaking views of U.S. Cellular Field and a delicious food and beverage option for you to enjoy prior and during White Sox games. For more information, call 312-674-1000.
Here's Brian McCann. He's driven in the only run with a sacrifice fly, knocking in Ellsbury back in the 1st inning for his 92nd RBI. That's a lot of RBI. 92, leading this ball club by a wide margin.
A lot of RBIs for a guy that has to go behind the plate every day. He's caught, including this one, 131 games. Now, I would assume some of those
he just missed that one.
Might have been a first base or as a DH.
Stay in here. Nope, right on top of the dugout. Trying to come back.
Turned into just a beautiful day. It was overcast most of the morning. Now, wispy clouds, but bright sunshine.
The man who would not let a runner score. That's foul. A lot of people will always remember Brian McCann for that.
Well, I think he's about as old school as it gets in this day and age. And he wanted some respect for the game.
Big on. That's one reason I love him. He's got a lot of competitiveness.
He does. He's been a huge addition to this team.
Here's Greg Bird, a strikeout. And then Eric hit him in the knee with a slider.
Mark Teixeira's got one more year on his contract and figures to come back playing first base most of the time. But the Yankees feel that Greg Bird is going to be their first baseman for a long time.
Well, in my opinion, just watching him play, I've seen him on the highlights, and I've seen him play, but just watching him play, you give him another 1,000 at bats, and he's going to be a pretty good hitter. Got a chance to be at least.
He's awfully strong. What I liked about him was, yes, he can pull the ball, but in yesterday's ball game, he hit one deep to left center field. So it looks like he'll use the whole ballpark and be able to hit it out just about anywhere.
Yeah, he's got enough pop to hit it over that State Farm sign. The 1-2. He gone. 5 strikeouts now for Eric. We're into the 6th. We trail it 1-0.
Subway, the 97999 right now for your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu from Subway. Message and data rates may apply. Subway, eat fresh.
Tyler Saladino then back to the top of the order with Adam Eaton and Jose Abreu. Tyler struck out. Check swing, which Luis Severino is going to have a lot of check swings from right-handed hitters in his career. And it doesn't have to be breaking balls low in the dirt. 2-0.
That was a pretty good pitch. He didn't get it. One of the things, especially leading off an inning in a one-run game, Tyler not even thinking about looking at third base to see if Ryan is back and maybe a bunt would be in order. He wants to swing the bat. But because he's got good speed and is a good base stealer, sometimes you just have to take what the opposition gives you.
Two and two.
Pretty impressive numbers so far for Severino.
Gets through. Nope. Takes that nice big Cantini bounce. He stayed down. He's still going to get in there with that arm he's got. Gregorius, just about as good arm as any shortstop in the game.
Every throw he's made this entire 4-game series has been right on the money. I mean, not even a foot or two either way.
One and 0. Two and nothing. Oh, now get on for break. Three and nothing. Take two. There's one. Justin Smoke is at a 2-run home run. That's his 17th. That big man has caught the virus. The hitting contagion. And there you go, ball 4.
Andrew Bailey throwing in the pen. We've seen him in this series, and even though it has not been a particularly good year for him overall, he threw very well.
So that's the first walk issued by Severino, and that extends Adam Eaton's consecutive game on base streak to 17.
We saw Bailey in relief of Sabathia. He went an inning and a third. Perfect baseball with a couple of strikeouts.
Oh, what an arm he had when he first came on the scene. Woo. Yeah, Abreu is 1 for 2.
Bailey was overwhelming with Oakland. Then got traded to Boston and started to have some injury problems, and they really haven't stopped. He is healthy now, but it's been a tough go for him.
Getting a hole at will. Adams going to turn it on, and he will go ahead. He just more or less lulled him into that, and he takes third.
That's 2 for 3 for Jose, and this one just barely able to get by Gregorius, but get by him it did.
Watch Adam when he makes this little turn here, how he'll just. Now he turns it on.
Gardner didn't come in aggressively and get that ball in.
He sort of like lulled him into it.
If you catch him back, waiting back to just lollipop in the infield, you might as well take third.
There's no way in the world he should have been on third base. That ball. When you can throw and have the speed of Gardner. Melky hit the ball hard twice. Once into a double play and the other time for a double. Well, this kid Severino, in the heat of a pennant race, called up late, was not allowed more than 1 run in 4 of his previous 6 outings.
He's been awfully good.
That is very good. I'll tell you, he's got some stones as well. Cam wants to have a little talk with him.
But one of the reasons he's going out there is to make sure that the left-hander who just got up in the pen has a chance to get loose.
If he gets loose that fast, he's pretty good.
That's Chris Capuano, who has been a starting pitcher for a great portion of his career. He's joined Andrew Bailey.
Gap out there in right center. Uh-oh. Back him up. 4th double play turn, and it's still 1-0 New York. Johnson, and since then he has pitched out a couple of jams like he's a 10-year veteran. Dustin Ackley.
Well, you'd love to hold him down here and let the offense score, because in the not too distant future, those shadows are going to be creeping across home plate, making the visibility very favorable for the pitcher. And there you can see the lights just starting to edge across the plate. The majority of it will be here in about 5 minutes.
That is high and foul. Ackley probably coming out of college as much, if not more, publicity than any hitter in a long time.
Justin Wilson now throwing in the pen, and he is their normal 7th inning guy. Joe Girardi doesn't use his pitchers more than 2 days in a row. And so Wilson had a day off, pitched yesterday, and most likely, now that Severino has gotten through the 6th inning, most likely be exactly the way Joe could have drawn it up.
Uh-oh. It is 2-0.
Ninth home run, 26th driven in. That looked like a changeup that was up. And Ackley didn't go out to get it. He waited for it and hit the daylights out of it. So with the Yankees, that's his 3rd home run in pinstripes, our 4th drive of the game. His 7th Yankee run batted in, and 9 of 26 overall.
Well, when he came out of college, he came out with the reputation of being the greatest hitter ever to come out of college. High pop up. Now Tyler take care of it. Rob Brantley says, "Be my guest." Well, Eric, as we mentioned earlier, he's had a long year.
They give up his 7th home run, but he's around the plate a lot. When you're around the plate a lot, you're going to give up home runs. You just have to make sure they're solo shots, and by and large, they have been. And for Severino, when he's given 2 or more runs of support, he's 4-0 in his last 5 starts, and although he probably will exit this ball game, he's got a 2-run lead. Show you a fan who happens to be in the aisle and almost gets hit. Never noticed the ball coming her way.
Now we're going to get a little stirring around down our bullpen.
Looks like 108 pitches, and with that, Brantley goes out. Don Cooper comes out. Abreu goes to the mound, as does everybody in the infield.
The man's had a long year.
He has had that.
Pitcher of the year. 3-0 up here since being called up. He's been in some jams. He had stress pitches in the 1st, stress pitches in the 3rd, stress pitches in the 4th.
Now, the 5th inning was really the only inning where he kind of coasted through with a couple of strikeouts. But in the meantime, Gets a lot of pitches, and Don Cooper wanting to give Zach Putnam a chance to get loose, which he has. There you see the numbers. Last inning, very economical, because that was the first 1, 2, 3 inning he's had.
Plus, it's the third time around for these Yankee hitters.
Pretty decent numbers. 5 1/3, 6 hits, just a 1 earned run, 2 overall. Walked a pair, fan 5.
Well, he's pitched terrific.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, well, all those stress innings that he had, that first one, had the bases loaded. He walked the leadoff hitter, and then 2 consecutive errors. Base loaded, nobody out.
Yeah, that was just the 1 run.
Third inning, first 2 men aboard. They didn't score, but he had to bear down. Fourth inning, leadoff double. Didn't score, but he had to bear down. No, he's shown enough already. There he goes. And there's a base hit. So runners at the corners of 1 out.
Joe Girardi with a pretty good idea on the hit and run, because Ryan, not the strongest hitter around, but you get him concentrating on just contact. And if you can concentrate on contact, a lot of good things happen. He just took it through the left side.
He also knows this third time around for his guys, too. So here's Ellsbury. He's 1 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. Pops him up. Dig out. Here's Gardner. This is 4th at bat against him. Reached on the arrow, singled sharply, and then caught looking. Eric has definitely put himself in the mix going into spring training.
I would certainly say he has the inside track at one of those spots in the rotation.
Gotta have.
Yep.
Beltran. Beltran has reached on an error, gone out to left, and then lined hard. Trace Thompson in center field.
And it looks like Robin's going to give him the opportunity to try to pitch his way out of the 6th inning. Pitch number 118 on the way. And he has not been able to coast very much. There's a pass ball.
And it's 3-0.
And it is a pass ball.
Two and 0. Three and 0. 121st pitch coming up.
And that will be the last pitch. And Eric Johnson throws. All in all, a pretty good outing today before running out of gas here a bit in the 6th. So Zach Putnam will come into the ball game. Eric Johnson will leave. We'll step out and be back after these messages. By University of Chicago Medicine Comer Children's Hospital. We're teaming up for Kids Health. Kids Club members receive free White Sox tickets and exclusive Kids Club items. For information about the 2016 Kids Club, email kidsclub@whitesox.com. So Zach Putnam comes in the game. He inherits a Yankee at every base. He's 3-3. His ERA just under 4 on for the 47th time. He's coming back off a severe groin injury. Thrown the ball exceptionally well before and having some difficulties afterward. When he's right, that splitter is a devastating pitch.
2 out, bases loaded. McCann 0 for 2 with a sacrifice fly. 3-7-1 for them. 0-5-2 for us. Takes ball 1. Just a hard, loud, and exciting strike for the fans. One and two the count. Wouldn't bite. That splitter of Zach's when he's right. It's hard for left-handed hitters to lay off of it. Hard to pitch though when you get a bad groin.
Nice catch by a fan in the second deck behind home plate.
He gone. He knew it. Good job by Zach. Meanwhile, it's 3-0. Of Luis Severino, who was just outstanding. I mean, young man, first time we've seen him, 21 years old. Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. 6 innings, no runs, 5 hits, 1 walk. Just a couple of strikeouts, but he made some big pitches when he had to. We hit into 4 double plays today. He returned 4 double plays, is the right way to put it. One of them was a strike him out, throw him out. But here's Justin, and those are the numbers on him. 5-0, 3.10 ERA. And it's a 3-0 Yankee lead. 3-7-1 for them, 0-5-2 for us. It'll be Trace Thompson, Javi Garcia has come out to hit for J.B. Shuck. And then Mike Olt.
And this is what Joe Girardi wants. He wants to go Wilson to Betances to Miller. That's his threesome, the three he trusts the most, and what he usually does when he has the lead.
Well, that's his 6th inning threesome.
Yep.
He manages 6 innings if he's got the lead. That's a manager's delight today. Manage a 6 inning ball game and then have 3 guys who can come in.
We saw Wilson yesterday. In 1 inning, he fanned 3.
Oh, and 2 the count.
Wilson acquired from the Pirates in exchange for Francisco Cervelli. That was a deal that really helped both teams.
His bat pops him up right side. Everybody now. He's got calling him off. 1 out. Yeah, our hitters have not reacted well to the slants of Justin Wilson.
He's got very good stuff. And as soon as Adam Warren was taken out of the 7th inning spot and he was taken out to move in the starting rotation, that's when Wilson moved in. So Avi getting his opportunity to pinch hit.
J.B. Shuck was 1 for 2 with a beautiful catch. That coming in the 1st inning with a couple of guys on off the bat of Dustin Ackley.
Aviseo, who plays just about every day, only has had 1 opportunity to pinch hit. And the visibility in this opportunity isn't great. You can see all the players and the pitcher very much in bright sunshine, and the hitter immersed in the shadows. Not the best for seeing the spin on any day.
Well, if a guy's got a good breaking ball, you're at a distinct disadvantage. Not real good if he's dead straight and throwing mid-90s. One and 2 the count, Avi. Come on, Avi, start us off. Let's get something going. We've only scored 8 runs now. .33 innings.
That one got a good piece of Brian O'Nora, who's going to have to walk that one off.
Rip at that one. Tommy's been in one of these streaks lately, which all hitters, especially strong hitters, get into. You start pushing the bat a little bit. You can't push the bat fast enough at Major League pitching. You can pull it fast enough, but you can't push it fast enough. And most of the time, it'll tell you he's got an ouchy place someplace, whether it's a leg or back or whatever. Plus, it's been since September 16th. And we've had the bases loaded since we've had a hit. That ball hit hard. Stretch. It's out of here. You can put it on the board. Yes. And it's a 3-1 ball game.
That is the second pinch hit home run of the year. Mazda home run replay. He just reaches out, takes it to a very deep part of the ballpark, over 400 feet away, and takes it out of the park.
Well, you can see there he swung that bat. He didn't push it at all. As I mentioned, you can pull it fast enough, but you can't push it. And of course, with that home run, the Alex Nelius family and Christine O'Reilly will hook up with White Sox Charities once again in loving memory of Ursula. I went to the count to Olt. Mike had a strikeout, and then I had a Kansas City special. Ducks north into right field. Now 13 homers.
That's just the third home run Wilson's given up in 72 appearances.
Well, Pittsburgh is certainly satisfied with Cervelli.
They are that.
Count hangs at 0-2. Gio Soto on deck. They hit for Rob Brantley. Don't help him out. 2-2. Top of the 8th inning in Detroit. 6-1 Minnesota. Top of the 8th in Toronto. 4-3 Tampa Bay. And right here the 2-2 pitch. It's full. That ball hit hard into center field. Stretch. Back right in front of the fence in center field. 2 down.
And here is the aforementioned Gio Soto as he comes on to pinch hit. Gio's had 2 opportunities to pinch hit, and he's looking for his first hit.
Talking about Cervelli and the Pirates. And Hurdle's Pirates taking on Joe Madden's Cubs tonight. That's Burnett against Arrieta. 20-6 with a 188. If he doesn't win the Cy Young, something's fixed.
He's got some good competition.
Oh, sure he does. He's pretty good himself.
Oh, there's no doubt. And odds are, I would think you'd win it only if that Greinke and Kershaw split the vote. And Arrieta winds up with the award.
That's outside. Well, that's certainly, as we've said, that's certainly the best stuff we've seen all year. Big rip by Gio. Just underneath it.
Yankee pen up and going. Wilson not quite as dominating here today as he was in the ball game yesterday.
Two out, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 in. Here in the top of the 7th inning, 3-7-1 for the Yankees, 1-6-2 for our Sox. Just miss out. High into left field. That's a long home run by Javi Garcia. We get on the board, 7th inning stretch. We trail it by 2.
And we head into the bottom of the 7th inning. It's a 3-1 ball game as the Sox try to win this one and split the series. Avisail Garcia, who hit that pinch home run, stays in the game in right field. Soto, who came on a pinch hit, stays in the game behind the plate. And Zach Putnam, who got out of a big jam in the 6th inning, stays in the game. Well, the overall line for Eric Johnson, who's a pitcher of record in this one, 5 2/3. He gave up 3 runs. 2 of them earned on 7 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. And Zach is going to try to hold him right there at the 2-run deficit and turn it over to the offense.
Well, Eric pitched out of some jams, had some very stressful innings up front, and not all because of his own making. 2 errors in the 1st inning. Had the bases loaded, nobody out, and only gave up the 1 run. So overall, it was a good, solid, workmanlike performance by Eric Johnson.
Yep. I thought he threw the ball pretty well.
Here's Greg Bird. Greg 0 for 2 is hit by a pitch. Out in front, couldn't get it.
Dylan Betances, their 8th inning man, loosening in the pen.
That's low, 2-1. And we have an off day tomorrow. So make your plans. Final homestand. We got 3 with Kansas City, 3 with Detroit, starting on Tuesday. That pitch outside. In that Royal series, we're going to run Samardzija out on Tuesday, Quintana on Wednesday, and Danks on Thursday. That ball hit deep in the left center field. And it's going to be a ground rule double. That's Greg's 8th two-bagger.
We talked about Bird and the fact that he's got big power to all fields, and he crushes this one. This was a fastball. It was down. It was out over the plate, and no chance anybody to corral this. Like this, one of the few ballparks where that actually stayed in the ballpark. It was 399 where he hit that.
Here's Ackley. He's 1 for 3, a homer. Leading off last inning. That was his 9th homer.
Here's a look at Dan Jennings loosening in the pen.
He gone.
Shy Sox Bar and Grill at U.S. Cellular Field, the official post-game headquarters of the White Sox. Appetizers are half off our full menu from Gibson's Restaurant Group after every home game. The 2-story bar features 70 flat-screen HD TVs. Shy Sox Bar and Grill is located at the Gate 5 Plaza.
And here is Didi. Gregorius 1 for 3, a double. That was his 23rd. 38,690. And this was the 17th straight season, drawing over 3 million fans.
And the 13th in a row where they're going to lead the American League in attendance.
Yes, he did. 0-2 the count. Gio wants a little chit chat. Well, we've been talking about Chris Sale, certainly all his strikeouts. This will be the 5th year in a row Sox have broken. 5th year in a row broken their franchise record in strikeouts. Right here, we need a strikeout from them. He gone. 2 down. So here is Zachary Slade Heathcott, 2 for 3 with a run scored. Takes ball 1. Another close ball game for us. You can't get it. We lost 2-1 last night. We won 5-2 the night before. We lost 3-2. In fact, 86 of our 155 games coming into the day have been decided by 2 runs or less. That's huge. Out and around that one. We lead Major League Baseball with 57 one-run decisions, 13 extra inning wins, ranked 2nd with 11 walk-off victories. And yet, we're not going to get there. Bird at second, 2 out. And here's the 2-2 pitch.
Brendan Ryan in the on-deck circle, and Gio keeps going to the mound. So apparently they're not communicating all that well.
Payoff pitch.
Ryan's being called back.
Ryan 1 for 2 in this game.
Still got his helmet out. Perhaps they're just telling him what to look for, but nope. He is going to leave, and A-Rod is going to come on a pinch hit.
Adams in the series 1 for 9, but it was a big one. It was a double, an RBI double yesterday, knocking in the second, and what turned out to be the winning run.
2 for 7 with a home run and 3 driven in as a pinch hitter this year.
And also, if you have not seen any of this series, he became only the second man in Major League history. Second man in Major League history with 3,000 or more hits, 2,000 or more RBIs, 2,000 or more runs scored. The other guy, Bad Henry, 44, Hank Aaron. Alex, the owner of 686 home runs. Two on, two out. Saves the run. Beautiful play by Saladino. And that'll load him up.
He dives to his left, makes sure the ball stays out of center field. Couldn't get the force out at second, and here comes Robin. That's going to be it for Zach Putnam. Dan Jennings will come into the ball game.
Yeah, got Ellsbury coming up. Ellsbury is 1 for 3 with a walk and a run scored. Gardner will be the following hitter if he can't get him. Meanwhile, beautiful play by Saladino, and we'll be back.
On more than 400 devices. You get real-time highlights, live look-ins, and more every night on every device. Visit MLB.tv today. So with the bases full of Yankees, Dan Jennings comes on. He's 2-3. His ERA just over 4 on for the 50th time. And he will be looking at Jacoby Ellsbury in a 2-run game. So Rob Refsnyder, who's played in 3 of the games, coming into pinch run for A-Rod, who had his 3rd pinch hit.
So here is Jacoby. Walk and a run scored in the first, single in the second, popped up to left, and he also popped up to third. And he base hits in the breaking ball, got a high cookie, didn't miss it, and it's 4-0.
Second hit of the day. He's driven in 33 runs. High slider. And it's a 3-run game.
Here's Gardner. He's 1 for 3. That's in the left field. Fighting that sun. Now gets the angle, makes the catch, and that'll retire the side. But another one crosses the plate on the RBI single, and we're into the 8th, trailing 4-1.
Sox 10-6. There's been 3 errors combined. Severino went 6, threw the ball very well. No runs, couple of strikeouts and a walk. Avi with a pinch hit, solo home run in the 7th inning. Start something special with a great deal on a Honda, now at your Honda dealer. We've got a new Yankee pitcher coming into the ball game, and it is king-size Dellin Betances. He's 6-3, his ERA 1.36, on for the 71st time. This will be the 3rd time we will have seen him in the series. Chase Headley checks in the game at 3rd. Rob Refsnyder, who came out a pinch run, will stay in the game at 2nd base.
That pitch is outside, and he called it a strike. Carlos been one of those streaks lately where they put him in the hole a lot right off the bat, or they get him in the hole with missed 1 strike call. That was closer than the first one. 1-1. Carlos twice has gone back to the pitcher, once hard and once soft. Betances just one of 6 relievers all time to record at least 124 strikeouts in multiple seasons. Also 3 times by Dick Raditz, the monster, back in '62, 3 and 4 of the Red Sox. Rob Dibble, 2 times by Goose Gossage, 2 times by John Hiller, 2 times by Mike Marshall. John Hiller, left-hander from the Tigers.
When you've got as good a slider as Betances has, as big as he is, so you get a terrific angle on it. and you can throw 100 miles an hour, you're going to get your share.
Don't have him out. Payoff pitch. And another souvenir. Just tuning in, they scored an unearned run in the first off Eric Johnson. Then they added 2 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th. So we picked up 1 last inning. And another foul back. There's a shot. There's another hang whoop'em for Sanchez. As I mentioned earlier, he's in one of those streaks now. Hit the ball hard twice today. Hit it hard twice last night, right at a left fielder and right at a center field. So here is Tyler. He's 0 for 2. Had the park. That had zone.
At 99 on the outside corner, with this visibility, you're not going to have too many people lean out and get in that one.
Well, if you do, they're crazy. That one at 99. It's like trying to face Nolan Ryan going up there looking for a curveball. You do that, you're crazy. That ball hit hard. So here's Adam Eaton. Adam walked back in the 6th. As I mentioned, that extended his consecutive on base streak to 17 games. Takes first pitch strike.
Feels Sam Holbrook, and he says, nope, didn't go.
Adam trying to become first Sox to score 100 runs since Jermaine Dye and Jim Thome. 2006. There's a shot down into the corner. So 2-out double. That's his 26th two-bagger. And here's Abreu. He's 2 for 3. But in fact, the last White Sox leadoff hitter to score 100+ runs in the season was Ray Durham back in 2000 when he scored 121. Outfield slightly to the right, gap out there in left center. That's nasty, isn't it? Shadow. Real nasty. Like trying to hit a frisbee.
Look, he threw a fastball to Adam Eaton. He was able to hit the ball pretty hard. But with any spin on it in this visibility, I'm not sure you're going to get too much of anything out of it.
Well, he's throwing in 2 with spin on it. He's going to throw in the 3rd with spin on it. And he's going to strike out. We're into the bottom of the 8th inning. Trailing 4-1.
Snuck up over 5. On for the 26th time. Last few times out, he's had some problems locating the plate. Stuff is there. The ability to throw strikes. What's going to determine how well he does here. He's going to go right through the heart of this Yankee order. The Yankees bidding to take 3 of 4 and be the second time that the Yankees have won a home series since August 20th if they hang on to win this one.
Beltran, McCann, and Bird. Beltran 0 for 3 with a base on balls. And you're so right about Daniel Webb. The stuff is there. Got to get it over the plate. One and 0 the count. That is a bullet off the Hotel Transylvania sign for a single.
Can't hit it much harder than that. So a very long, very loud single. This is a fastball right down the middle, and he absolutely crushes it.
Well, it's when you're hitting against a guy like Daniel Webb, who's got a terrific arm, good stuff, and you know he has trouble getting it over the plate. When he misses with the first pitch, you know what you're going to get on the second pitch. I mean, that really is common sense. And when you're a veteran, a 38-year-old veteran like Beltran, who has he's still a good hitter. He's a smart hitter. I mean, that's like shooting fish in a barrel.
He got every bit of that one, so Don Cooper's had his say. And Rico Noel coming in the ball game. He is their premier base stealer.
He's got a decent lead over there. Sold 90 bases a few years ago. And that's thrown away. So he winds up on third. That's what we were talking about yesterday. Getting somebody in late innings and fairly close ball game is more important than having a good pinch hitter.
Well, this throw got away, and Noel, who's 4 for 4 in stolen bases, is going to advance one base on the air and then takes his strain chop. No chance to get him at third. He can fly.
Infield in. And there's first pitch strike. Brian Oakley with a sacrifice fly, picking up his 92nd RBI. Now this is the 0-1-0-2. This is where Daniel Webb's stuff can come into play. But on 1-0-2-0, He gone. So here's Bird. He's 1 for 3. Doubled to lead off last inning and scored a 2-out single by Ellsbury. That off-speed pitch misses. Oh, nice snap by one of the fans, one-handed. Gives it to his son. Yes. Good play, Dad. It's 5-1.
It'll probably mean that we're not going to see Andrew Miller now that it's a non-save situation. And that one shot right back up the middle. The second hit of the day for Bird. He's 2 for 4. He was also hit by a pitch, and he's a good-looking young hitter.
Well, just wait till he gets another 1,000 at bats.
Yeah, he's going to be a real good one.
Same way for our Trace Thompson. Just wait till he gets another 1,000 at bats. Might not take him 1,000. Might take him 500, 600. Wait till Avi gets another 500 or 600 at bats. That's what's so bad about last year. Him having to lose those 500 at bats. 2-0. Ackley 1 for 4 with that home run. And 2-0, you know what's coming. On certain pitchers, you know what's coming.
Tried to get this one up and in, but couldn't get it there. And Headley came in the game defensively, getting his opportunity to hit and making the most of it.
Here's Didi. Didi 1 for 4 with a double. Infield in. Good job, Gio. Keep it in front of him. 2-0. First base open, it changes the dynamics of this at bat on a 2-0 count from Webb.
Yeah, he can throw him a slider and not worry about it if he puts him on.
Exactly. That's what he did. So. Three and one. Four and one. One out, Sox packed again. These guys have stranded 13 runners in this game. They've had the bases loaded. This is the fourth time they've had the bases loaded. They've stranded the bases loaded 3 times. And here comes Robin. And he wants to make a change. So Daniel will depart. And we'll be back.
One and one, ERA 3.66, on for the 16th time. He's been up and down this year a number of times. He's going to try to bail the boys out. Bases loaded situation, only one out here in the bottom of the 8th.
Five 13-1. The Yankees won 7-3 for us. Off day, as I mentioned, tomorrow, so make your plans to be with us at U.S. Cellular Field for the final 6. 3 with Kansas City, 3 with Detroit. And the old saying comes out. Wait till next year.
Slade Heathcott, 2 for 3 today. Getting an opportunity to start, making the most of it.
2 for 3 with a run scored and a base on balls. to center field. Everybody's tagging. And it's 6-1.
Sacrifice fly and the 7th run Heathcott has driven in this year. And Rev Snyder will get his first at bat of the day. He's actually swung the bat pretty well in this series.
He looks good at the plate.
Yep.
And I've been watching him take batting practice, watching him take ground balls. I'll tell you, he's got a chance. He's got some good moves out there at second base if he just gets his behind a little bit lower. On certain ground balls. Takes first pitch strike. He's a good looking player. 24 years old. And if you're a .297 hitter in your career in the minor leagues, you can swing the bat. Two and two the count. Got some finals. Boston shuts out Baltimore 2-0. Mets beat Cincinnati 8-1. Marlins defeated Atlanta 9-5. Toronto came back and beat Tampa Bay 5-4. Donaldson hit number 41. American League MVP. Bryce Harper. National League MVP.
I don't think there's a whole lot of doubt about either of those guys.
How about that catch that Trout makes? Does he just keep getting?
He does that routinely.
Well, Torrey Hunter took it. You know, he's the one that brought all that into vogue, so to speak, and Trout's taking it to another level, which is the way it's supposed to be. He gone. Couple of runs across the plate. We're into the ninth. Not good.
Andrew Miller, who was throwing, sat down, and Ryan Mitchell comes on for the 18th time. ERA, it's up there close to 6. He's 0-2, and he's got a 5-run lead to work with.
Here's Melky. Melky 1 for 3, a double. That home run by Josh. Game winner, bottom of the 9th inning.
It's pretty important for them because they want to wind up with the best record.
Good play by Mitchell. 1 out.
Got to have pretty good coordination here. When you realize you can't get the ball, you've got to get to the bag, locate it. Even if it's the second or third time you stop on it.
So here's Tracy's 0 for 3. One and one to count. High pop up. Bird. 2 down. And here's Avi. Avi, pinch hit. Rashuk back in the 7th. He took him right over that Stanley sign out there in deep center field. Oh. Oh.
Got a hold of what appeared to be a hanging slider on the inside part of the plate.
He got a cookie.
And fouled it straight back.
Oh, did he ever get a cookie? So we're near right side.
That looks like another slider that didn't do a whole lot. Yankees will be entertaining the Boston Red Sox for their final 4 home games.
The 0-2 pitch. And this ball game is over. So We come in here, we lose the first game, we win the second game, we lose last night 2-1, we lose today 6-1, and I tell you, Eric Johnson, under the circumstances, had a good outing.
No, I thought he threw very well, and unfortunately, didn't work out well for him. But this series belonged to the Yankees, and we'll be back after these messages.